Hello YouTube, this is Silver Age Dave. I have a different kind of a Keeping the Promises video. This video, I'm coming to you from a different space that I use for comics. I mentioned sometimes in my video, I've got multiple locations where I keep books, and I'll sometimes procure some space here to go through and organize books and just for storage and stuff like that. So I had done, an episode of Keeping the Promises, the Comic Promise, and I talk about how I buy collections, and I wanted to give a counterpoint to that. This collection, I've got, what is that, 3, 4, 6 long boxes, and there's a partial filled magazine box. There were originally 8 long boxes. And this is kind of a, hey, watch out, for new collectors. There was a young man who had reached out to me quite a while ago. His name was Kyle, and he had, at the time, like maybe two long boxes of comic books that he had acquired, and just over a long time. And he was faced with a severe financial hardship, and he was running out of options. So he reached out to me and he said, hey, Dave, what do you think? And I said, you've got a nice collection. And I made him an offer. And whenever I'm buying a collection, the first thing I do is I let people know what their options are. And, anytime I see people with comic books, I tell them, look, if you go to the stores, you have this. If you try to have a flea market booth, you have this. If you try to sell them on Craigslist or eBay, you have this. If you sell them to me, you have this. These are the things. And someday you might look back and say, boy, I wish I never sold those comics. And then sometimes we're between a rock and a hard place. So I talked to Kyle about all that stuff, and he was certain he wanted to sell the comic books. And we agreed on a price, which I think was fair, and he was happy with. So then I'm going to call it the mistake. I welcomed him. I don't welcome a lot of people in real life into my comic book, my main room, but I offered him in, and he got walking around. He got starry-eyed and got caught up in it, as we can do when we're watching YouTube. And he, I'm just going to flip through these as I'm going. And he made the spur-of-the-moment decision that instead of selling his comics, he said, Dave, you know what? I know I'll regret it if I sell them to you. And not that you're not a great guy, because everyone knows Silver Age is a good guy. But he said, you've really inspired me. You're so passionate about comics, and I want to, walk that line also. And I said, Kyle, that's great. I said, I don't like buying collections. Normally when I buy one, it's a time and place, maybe the best of 2 bad decisions. And I said, so that's great. If you're feeling inspired, that's great. So Kyle disappeared, and I thought I'll hear from him years later, and he'll say, thank you, Silver Age Dave, because now look what I have. Well, it backfired. And Kyle instead decided that he wanted a massive collection, okay? So he spent probably the better part of a year and a half going to every garage sale, flea market. He went to auctions, he went to antique malls. And, mind you, he was in a bad financial spot to start with. And so he did some serious shopping. And not everything he bought was beautiful. But on top of the shopping, he went out and he bought long boxes. He bought bags and boards, not for everything, but, these I'm flipping through, they're all rebagged and reboarded. And, there's nothing great in here. Some of these things you might find in a $1 box, or, certain issues, couple bucks or $5 maybe. But, they're nice comics. And so he went a little rambunctious. And lo and behold, I saw him one day. He had his collection. He put it on Facebook Messenger, Manager, whatever it is on Facebook. And I reached out to him. I knew who it was. And I said, hey, Kyle, what's going on? And, you know, his response was, I'm in a little bit of trouble, Dave. And so he said, well, why don't you come in? And, you know, and so anyway, so he brought this collection to me. And, you know, he kind of walked through his story. And now not only was he financially shot, but he was being forced to move. He had checked with a few comic book stores who had offered him nothing really for the, you know, we have 4 local stores, and then we have two more other LCS, but you know, everyone's got back issues, and sometimes they're just not buying. And in the way he put the back side of the collection together, he bought a lot of stuff that, you know, they just weren't wanting, and so no one was willing to buy this stuff. So he brought the stuff in. He didn't even say anything. He just brought it in. Like I say, eight long boxes and then another magazine box. And he said, can you just do, you know, what you had offered me last time? And, you know, I didn't even bother looking through it. You know, I flipped through a few of the boxes, but, you know, and normally I'm not quite as trusting, but he's a super nice kid. And, you know, I didn't know him other than the time, you know, he was going to sell me the collection initially. And I said, Kyle, absolutely, you know, I'll do that for him. I felt bad. He was having trouble. So, you know, I gave him the money, and I really didn't go through the stuff. I just bought a different collection of books recently. So these things sat. Well, inside of the 8 long boxes, you know, in retrospect, in no disrespect, it was an absolute slaughter for Kyle. It was just, it seemed like one bad decision after another. And I talk about comic collecting, you have to have a number of things going. You have to have the economic stability that you can, you know, afford a luxury move like that. And the storage of it. And he didn't have really either one of those. He did do a nice job rebagging and reboarding some of the collection. Like I say, there's 2 more long boxes, and embarrassingly, I don't know where they are. They're in one of my other places, so I don't know where the other 2 are. But he did spend a lot of money expanding the collection, and, you know, rebagging, reboarding. Some of this he bought, it looked like, you know, wholesale lots, because there's a lot of multiples, like Punisher 27. You know, if anyone's really needing one of those, let me know. 28, 29. You know, he's got multiples of things, but he just didn't have it all planned out. It was a young man's decision to charge forward. I guess that's why they like, you know, young guys on the front line. Sometimes you get you know, passionate about something and you're just going to charge. And he charged, and it didn't work out. And so, you know, much after the fact, when I was going through the collection, he had, you know, there was a New Mutants run in here. And I don't know if he knew it was in there or not. I didn't know it was in there, but, you know, certainly there was an 87, there was a 98. And he had, you know, an X-Force run in there that was pretty complete. And, you know, you've seen a few of the books as I'm flipping through here. There's a lot of neat issues, you know, stuff that, you know, as many comics as I have, I don't have full runs of really anything. So when I go through something like this, yeah, this might be my 4th issue of the Thing number 11, but some of these I don't have one. Okay, the way I collect is a different, unique way that works for me, and it's exciting. I really, my goal is not to complete a run. I like the thrill that someday I'll complete it. So anyway, you know, there's so many videos, mine included, that we see the room and we think, oh man, that's pretty good. But there's a lot that goes into you know, preparing for something like that. He had a whole box of X-Men. I think that's one of the boxes that's missing here. He had a whole box of X-Men. I think his run started at 120, and or maybe a little earlier. And there's also a box of 12 to 20 centers that I think I have buried under some other boxes. And so it was just, you know, just that kind of thing. And, you know, I sincerely hope at some point Kyle gets his things straightened out. And if he loves comic books again someday, I'll take care of him. I try to take care of the people, you know, that are around and you know, help out. But it was just one of those things. So this particular collection, you know, you had someone whose heart was absolutely in the right place, and he was thinking this would make my life better. And I you know, I talked about this before. I don't know what he spent. This dude spent a lot of money building this collection up. And so, you know, what I'll do is I'm going through my reorganization. I'm going to go through and I'm going to, you know, complete my collection as best I can. I'm going to use things that I'm missing, and then I'm going to, you know, maybe start advertising, you know, some of this stuff on the cheap to people that are, you know, serious about collecting whatever it is. You know, some of these are interesting and unique books, and you know, and some of them are, you know, maybe not quite as interesting. I love them all. Here's the New Mutant section, and I already pulled 98 out of there, and I already pulled 87 out of there. But you know, overall nice stuff. So I'll just flip through a couple more of these, and that's a Forever Evil run in there. Constantine and Future's End. You know, like I say, some of the stuff that's pretty cool, and some of it is you know, just otherwise. So it was a different kind of keeping the promise. I don't think Kyle was terribly invested in a lot of these. I think he was just bulking up, I guess. He just wanted you know, a lot of weight on the bar, and so that is what it is. So the thing I want to get across is if you're out there buying just for the sake of buying, make sure you got the house in order before you start doing that way. Because I'll tell you what he found out, and unfortunately what a lot of us know, is, you know, the comics are worth a lot to us, but in the open market, there's just really usually no one out there. And I don't think he had the kind of time for eBay selling, you know, to move this collection along. So I'll just flip through a couple more here. I don't have a whole lot to say. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for watching the videos. If you have questions or you know, comments, please, you know, ask me questions. This is a, you know, a strange video for me because I don't know if I went through that one. Maybe I did. Spawn, and yeah, I think I went through that. So what do we have here? This was kind of an A box, A Barbed Wire, Alien, Black Lightning. He had a run in here. Justice League, Europe, yeah. Justice League America, Fate, Outsiders, Ray, Underworld. He had a couple weird ones in here. He had some Lady Death and Evil Ernie and Vampirella and stuff like that. None of the original old stuff. It was all newer. So, you know, again, I'm not sure, you know, what all I'm going to do with everything here. But anyway, just thought I'd share. Not my favorite video. I felt pretty bad for Kyle for what he was going through. But, you know, when he left, he didn't try to, you know, make more money off it. He just wanted to walk away and know where it was. And, you know, I appreciate that. These are on a list to rebag and reboard here real soon. This will be one of my first groups once I get things resorted. And I wish I could find the other 12 to 20 cent box, because he had no like great first appearances, nothing really earth-shattering, but he had a lot of really cool issues. A lot of neat stuff in there. Again, if you're trying to fill up a collection, buying collections is a way to do it. You know, it happens with a vengeance. You just have to be able to house this stuff. So what my goal is on this is I'm going to go through this whole thing in the next day or two. I'm going to get it all alphabetized. And then as I'm going through my big room reorder, I will be able to bag these, board these, and put them into the collection as they go. I think Go-To Geeks, they were talking about the Jerry Lewis comic books the other day. They picked up a couple of them, and they're pretty neat. If you haven't seen Jerry Lewis videos, check him out. He was pretty funny, some old school funny. Invaders, Dennis the Menace, and there's just some other stuff. So anyway, YouTube, with that 15-minute whatever, this is Silver Age Dave coming to you from the other space. Silver Age Dave signing out.